Hey everybody, it's Solar Ricchetti. If you're tired of dying like I did in this clip, let's talk about some tips that'll help brush up your PvP skills, and I'm not going to waste your time, so let's get into it now. First tip that I have for everybody coming into Tarkov is going to be the right hand peek. And what you can see on screen here is my buddy Wise Lunchbox actually demonstrating how much of him is showing when he's right hand peeking me. And as he moves over to the other side, he's going to show you what a left hand peek looks like. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to zoom in and we're going to take a look at when he's peeking, what this actually truly looks like. So as you can see, he's looking at this left-hand peek. Most of his body is exposed. We can see a leg, an arm, thorax, easy shot on the head. Obviously, this is all pretty close range, but again, it demonstrates what a left-hand peek is actually going to look like in an actual game. So let's talk about Lunchbox's right-hand peek on me right now. When I aim in, you can easily see that the only visible parts of his body are an arm and a little bit of his head. I could hit a lucky headshot. However, more often than not, I'm not going to hit it. It's because of how covered he is that a right-hand peek is viable. Now what we're going to do is take a look at a left-hand peek from your perspective in-game. The first one you can see me holding here is a left-hand peek. Even in this position, you can still feel that most of you is exposed. And even when I ADS on the right-hand side, you can see, for example, I feel much more covered. My arm is right up against the block, and from Lunchbox's side, he can probably only see the littlest bit of me, an arm and a head. Whereas in my position, I can see his entire body while still being mostly covered. This is why in Tarkov, a right-hand peek is so much better. Right-hand peeks are so powerful simply because the game plays out of your right eyeball as your PMC. So with this all in play, the right hand peek is typically the best option for you to take. That's not to say that you should never left hand peek, but in most cases, take the right hand peek if it's available, it's safer, and you're going to be better off for it. So that concludes tip number 1. Let's go ahead and move into tip number 2. The next tip that I want to talk about is point firing versus ADS fire. If you take a look at Lunchbox here, he's about to strafe back and forth. The first strafe that he does is when he's not aiming down his gun. Notice that he's able to move at his full movement speed the entire time while able to maintain target acquisition. Now that he's moving, you can see that all he's doing is aiming down his sight. Look at how much slower he is. While he's still able to remain on target, it's not nearly as hard to hit him back as if he's moving at full speed. You are able to see your movement speed represented by your character when you ADS by the little white dots in the bottom left-hand corner. When you ADS, that movement speed is essentially cut in half, making you a sitting duck. So with that being said, more often than not, if you're in a close quarters fight, you're gonna wanna point fire. But let's go ahead and jump into point number 3 now. So the next point that I want to show you guys is using flashlights in Tarkov are extremely powerful. So what we're going to see here in a second is Lunchbox is going to turn his flashlight laser combo on, and he is going to be able to show you what it looks like when you're on the receiving end of a flashlight. Once that's turned on, you can tell just by my screen that I can barely see where Lunchbox is. However, when I use my flashlight, you can see that I see Lunchbox perfectly, but that he's still going to be getting that same blinding effect that we were receiving. Using a flashlight in Tarkov, you can say, quote unquote, can be a crutch. However, if we're strictly trying to improve our PvP skills and survival rate, using a flashlight is going to be important for you. Along with that, when you use a flashlight or laser in Tarkov, it actually does increase your point fire spread. So using it means you get a better point fire accuracy. It also means you're going to be able to see when your opponent cannot. Overall, it is just a huge thing to have on your side when you fight in Tarkov. Next, let's move on to one of the more controversial slash less used points that at least that I've seen, especially early wipe, is grenades, how to use them, and how to make sure you're getting the best advantage possible out of them. So let's get into point number 4 now. So let's go ahead and get into this first scenario. So what we want to do is demonstrate why grenades are so powerful. So you can see that I'm in dorms, me and Lunchbox are in a kind of like mock fight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you why a grenade is powerful. I throw this grenade to get him off of the spot that he's in. I don't know where Lunchbox is yet. So I go ahead and I take some space using that grenade and I get into another room. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what it's like to try to push this if you don't have something to get them to move off of that spot. So I'm going to do a couple of little jiggle peeks here. Lunchbox doesn't exactly know what I'm going to do. He's just kind of there holding. So I go ahead, I take some extra space. You can see I got lit up because he was able to hold an angle and I ended up getting caught on the door frame. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take some time to heal. Now, in a live raid, this person may push the sound of you healing. However, it is definitely in their best interest to stay in a spot where they kind of have you on lock. However, I do have one more grenade at my disposal. So what I do is I go ahead and throw it. You can actually hear Lunchbox run down elbow. I wait for the grenade to go off, I look for the point fire, and I go ahead and end the fight. This is a great way to show how important grenades actually are. So the next tip that I want to talk about is the importance of painkillers. As you can see, I've gotten both of my legs shot out, and I am not currently on a painkiller. You can see how much that affected my movement speed. I'm not able to run. I'm basically reduced to a limp. It basically does the same thing that ADSing your weapon does in close quarters. It cripples your movement speed and makes it almost impossible to move. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to perform a surgery on my legs quickly, just so that way they're up to full speed. And then I'm going to take a painkiller and have Lunchbox shoot my legs out again. As you can see, I'm going to go ahead and pop a Propofol, which does give the painkiller effect. And now I'm going to go ahead and walk again. And when Lunchbox shoots out my leg, I'm still able to move. I go back again, I can still sprint. I basically have all of my movement capability. And this is why painkillers are so important. As you can see, I jump, he shoots out my other leg. I'm still able to run, I'm able to get away, disengage, and then get ready for an actual firefight. Jump around, all of your movement capabilities are still there for you to use. And that's why I recommend bringing in a painkiller as often as possible. I hope that these tips have helped you out so that way you guys feel a little bit more prepared early wipe. If you guys have any suggestions for other tips, leave them down in the comments below. And maybe I'll make a part 2 based on some of the tips that you guys have. Also, I do stream every day, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, so feel free to drop by. It's Silver Ricchetti, same here as on YouTube. So come by, come hang out. You guys get to see some of the things that, you know, I do live. You guys will get to take part in some of the polls, predictions, all that kind of fun stuff. And of course, the best way to know when I post my next YouTube video, which will be next week, I am going to be starting a weekly YouTube post schedule. So you guys will see one video a week at the bare minimum. So make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe so that way you guys know when the next video comes out. I appreciate you guys for hanging out, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Goodbye.